She had no clue I was home. That's the part that keeps echoing in my head like a bad chorus you can't turn off. I'd slipped in through the side door, sneakers soaked, shirt plastered to my back, one hand clutching a plastic grocery bag, and the other brushing damp grass off my neck. The rain had started just as I wrapped up mowing, and I'd flown through the checkout at Kroger, hoping to beat the storm before it really cut loose. I wasn't supposed to hear what I heard, but I did. "I can't do this anymore," she said, calm, almost rehearsed, her voice bouncing off the kitchen tile like a tennis ball. I can't live on his pathetic salary anymore." Then came the pause, followed by laughter. Not nervous laughter, not guilty, just pure, unfiltered amusement. And then her mother, Loretta, jumped in. The same woman who's always looked at me like I tracked manure across her clean floors. "Well, finally," she said, voice dripping with smug approval. "You gave it your best shot, sweetie." I didn't make a sound, didn't slam the door, didn't even clear my throat. Just stood there, still as a corpse, listening to the post-mortem of my own marriage while a bag of turkey, eggs, and overpriced vanilla oat milk dripped rainwater onto the hardwood. She couldn't even bother to throw in AirPods for her little betrayal session. That moment, it wasn't rage. It wasn't heartbreak. It was clarity, pure and cold. You don't argue with someone who's already writing your funeral speech while painting her nails. So I walked out to the garage, sat down on that old green folding chair she always hated because it looked too bachelor for her taste. I stared at the lawnmower for an hour straight. Didn't touch my phone. Didn't shed a tear. Just sat there, listening to the rain hammer the tin gutter, and made a decision. That night, I cooked dinner like nothing happened. Nothing fancy, salmon patties and frozen peas. She didn't say a damn word about the groceries. Just scrolled Instagram, snorting now and then at whatever garbage her friends were posting. At one point, she finally looked up and said, "Can we talk about this whole separation thing? I've been thinking, maybe we don't have to make it ugly. No court drama, no fights." "Sure," I said real easy. "Whatever you think is fair." She blinked like I'd just offered her a free Tesla. "Really?" "Yeah," I said. "You can keep the house. I'll find somewhere else." The way her eyes lit up, you'd think she just hit the Powerball. I could practically hear her ego inflating. "Well, I appreciate that," she said, barely hiding the smirk tugging at her mouth. "That's really mature of you." No attempt to hide it. No sugarcoating. She thought she'd won. And if you've stuck with me this far, let me tell you something. 97% of people who read stories like this don't hit follow. If you do, though, it actually keeps me and my crew cranking out more of these. Anyway, back to the good part. Next day, she's at brunch with her little squad. I hear her laugh before I even back out of the driveway. "He's being so cooperative," she tells them. I almost feel bad. Almost. He knows he's lucky I'm not asking for more. She says this while wearing the necklace I bought her for our 5th anniversary, the same one she called underwhelming. I didn't flinch when I heard about it later. Just smiled and kept playing my part. Signed every paper. Answered every email from her lawyer like clockwork. Never gave her one reason to suspect a thing, except for one. She never asked why my legal name didn't match the one on our mortgage. Never asked why I never updated it after we got married. Never noticed that 2 years ago, I quietly took back my mother's maiden name after a certain funeral changed everything. And you better believe I wasn't going to bring it up. 3 days later, I packed my life into 2 Rubbermaid bins and an old military duffel bag I hadn't touched since college. She wasn't even home. Just left me a note on the fridge. "Don't forget to clean the downstairs bathroom. You promised." Real classy. Elegant, even. She got the house. The white BMW. The Luke Cruiseat pants she never even wore. Hell, she even got the dog. The one who liked me better, for the record. And I handed it all over without a single raised voice. No lawnside screaming matches. No broken plates or dramatic exits. Just polite emails and calm signatures. She told her friends, "Honestly, I think he's relieved. He knows he can't keep up with me. He knows he married out of his league." Heard that one secondhand from a co-worker's wife at yoga class. I didn't blink. Let her have her script. Let her paint herself as the saint who tried her best, while I faded out like a loyal butler finally dismissed. Truth? I played my part so well, even I almost believed it. Her lawyer was some guy named Curtis. The type who drinks protein shakes with almond milk and swears he's from Brooklyn because he once spent a semester there. Curtis CC'd me on every email like he thought I'd need help sounding out the big words. I answered everyone with a crisp, acknowledged, and got his docs back within an hour. He asked on a Zoom call, "You're not contesting the house?" "Nope," I said, sipping coffee from a chipped mug. She always loved the backsplash. His eyebrows shot up like he'd just learned I wasn't illiterate. "And the 401k split?" "She can have it. I'll waive mine." All right then. That's unusual." "Unusual, Curtis?" "Buddy, you have no idea." See, while Curtis was patting himself on the back for closing the easiest case of his career, I was running a whole other game. I'd already re-registered under my legal name, the one I reclaimed after Grandpa Caraway died, the name that unlocked things she never knew existed, the name she never even noticed wasn't on the mail. When we married, I took her last name. Seemed cute at the time, made her mom tear up at the wedding. But when Grandpa passed, I switched back, quietly, legally, no fanfare. Because Caraway wasn't just a name. It was a key, a lineage, a door to things she couldn't dream about. And I wasn't about to give her a map. Let her believe I was crashing at my brother's place, scrounging gas money, scraping by. Let her brag to her brunch crew about how she upgraded. Meanwhile, I was moving chess pieces she didn't even know were on the board. I let her keep thinking I was holed up somewhere with a busted microwave and a diet of instant noodles. She was telling her friends, "I think he's in one of those sad extended stay motels. You know, the ones with flickering lights and a fridge the size of a lunchbox." And they all giggled like it was the opening scene of some rom-com, where she's the sparkling heroine and I'm just the doormat with man-shaped footprints stamped across my back. She was still grinning like the cat that got the cream when she signed the final decree, smiling as she typed out a one-line email that read, "You've been surprisingly decent. I hope you find happiness someday." I replied with 2 words, already on it. Attach the signed documents. Hit send. Done. Wrapped up. She thought she'd played me like a fiddle, that she'd walked off with the spoils of victory, house, car, lifestyle, while her boring husband faded into obscurity. She truly believed she'd outsmarted the man with a modest paycheck. But here's the thing. All she really did was walk out of a home she didn't understand and into a future she'd never even sniff. Because here's what people like her never figure out. When someone stops fighting, it's not always surrender. Sometimes it's a setup. She pictured me sleeping on a pull-out couch, living on greasy takeout, probably binge-watching war documentaries in some dim basement, drowning in self-pity. Want to know what I was really doing that morning? Picking between 2 suits, navy or charcoal, and shining my shoes until I could see my face in them. Not for a job interview, not for a date, for a meeting I'd been waiting almost 12 years to have. From the street, the building looked like nothing, just another old financial office wedged between a gelato shop and some overpriced wine bar. But inside, different world. The marble lobby didn't scream wealth, it whispered it. Quiet, steady, the kind of money that doesn't need neon signs. No receptionist either, just a biometric scanner glowing softly. I pressed my index finger to the glass panel. Soft click. Door opened. The silence inside was the kind you feel in your bones. Leather chairs, deep and dark like they'd seen decades of secrets. An oil painting hung on the far wall. A man in full military dress, his eyes sharp even through the varnish. The plaque read, Leonard J. Caraway, 1921 to 1994. My great-grandfather. Funny thing, my heart didn't race. It slowed, like I was walking into a place I'd been heading toward all my life. "Mr. Caraway," said the man rising to greet me. "Boss." Gray suit, crisp as a knife edge. Old as time, and probably twice as sharp. "It's been a long time," he said, extending his hand. "I'm ready," I told him, gripping it firm. "Activate the contingency. Let the trust distribute." Voss didn't even blink. He walked to a mahogany cabinet, pulled out a slim leather folder sealed with wax, and slid it across the table. "You understand what this means?" he asked. "I do," I said. She walked. "We're legally separated. The trigger's valid." He broke the seal. "And she doesn't know?" I smiled. "She never asked." Voss's expression softened just a fraction, almost pitying. He turned the page. 12,800,000. Paid quarterly. You'll have full oversight. The board has been waiting. He handed me a pen. It didn't feel like revenge. Not yet. It felt like balance being restored. like gravity setting things back where they belonged. See, the trust wasn't about splashing cash. Old money doesn't work that way. It's rules, iron and unbending, designed to preserve, not flaunt. And the clause? Simple as they come. Upon divorce, if the spouse is not blood or legal kin of the caraway name, and if said name has been restored at least 2 years prior, distribution begins. Translation? She never had a claim. Ever. And because I never mixed trust funds with marital assets, never flaunted the old name, never breathed a word, she walked away from a fortune she laughed right out of her life. The only soul who knew, besides me and Voss, was a man buried under marble. My grandfather. He'd pulled me aside at his 90th birthday and said, "Marry who you want, son, but protect the name. When the time comes, you'll understand why." Back then, I didn't. Now, crystal clear. Voss poured 2 fingers of scotch into crystal tumblers. No toasts, no gloating, just business. When I stepped back into the sunlight, there was a billboard on the building next door. An ad for a luxury vacation package. Big, bold letters. Paradise doesn't have to be shared. I laughed out loud. Back in my car, my phone buzzed. A selfie. Her in a new dress, clutching a mimosa like a trophy. Caption, "Look who's bouncing back, kiss mark." I didn't text back. Just muted the thread and watched the city roll by through the glass. She thought I was broke. Thought I was licking my wounds in some damp basement. Meanwhile, the boardroom carrying my family's name was already drafting quarterly reports, and the guy she dismissed as just a teacher had just gained voting rights over one of the oldest privately held funds in the state. She had no idea the storm was coming. Not yet. And then came the dinner. Of course, she picked the place. A trendy little bistro downtown with exposed brick, flickering candles, and bruschetta that costs more than a week's groceries. The kind of spot she used to beg me to take her back when splitting an entree was how we played date night. Now she's perched at a corner table like a queen on borrowed time, twirling a glass of Chardonnay. That red dress. The one she only wore when she wanted all eyes on her. I walked in wearing jeans, boots still crusted with sawdust, and a long-sleeve Henley that had been through hell and the garage twice. Not for drama. Just because I come straight from work. She gave me the once-over, lips curling like she'd just spotted mildew on her wine list. "Did you come here straight from changing tires?" I grinned. "Nah, changed too. Yours and the neighbors." She rolled her eyes. Still the joker. A waitress showed up, looking like she could cut the tension with a steak knife. I ordered a burger. She ordered salmon with asparagus, new damn, while she wouldn't touch the greens. "I thought it'd be good to get closure," she said, lifting her glass. "You know, for both of us." "Sure," I said. "Closure." Then she launched into her monologue. New chapter this, personal branding that, maybe a lifestyle blog, because the world definitely needs another one of those. I didn't interrupt. I never had to. Talking was always her favorite hobby. And then came the jab, the one she couldn't resist. "I'm sure you'll land on your feet," she said, voice dripping sugar and spite. "Maybe you'll meet someone who's better suited for a modest life." She said it with that little tilt of her head, condescending smile, like she was tossing a milk bone to a rescue dog. I leaned back in my chair, calm as ever. "Modest living never scared me," I said. "Beats being chained to a mortgage and a nameplate on someone else's desk." She let out a laugh. Short, tight. "Well," she said, eyes sparkling with venom, "you always did love being small." Then the check landed on the table. Before she could reach into that oversized designer bag, one I'd never seen before, probably paid for with her early payout, I grabbed the folio and slid in my card. "Oh," she blinked. "You don't have to." "I want to," I said, flat and steady. The waitress came back with the slip. I didn't even glance at the total, just scrawled the numbers, signed, and stood up. She looked down, saw the $500 tip sitting under my name on a $117 bill. Her face didn't twitch, but her neck flushed a shade darker. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I didn't give her the satisfaction of a single word. Instead, I said, "I've got a guy who details classic cars. Thinks he can get your old Altima looking sharp, unless you're still cruising in the Beamer." Her eyes blinked fast. "How did you?" I smiled easy. "Enjoy the blog." And then I walked out, never looking back. The sound of her confusion chased me harder than any argument ever could. Outside, the air was cold enough to bite. I stood on the curb like a man about to light a cigarette, but but I don't smoke. I just let the night settle on me. She still thought I was faking confidence. Still thought I was coping. What she didn't realize. Confidence comes easy when you're not playing defense anymore, when the scoreboard is already lopsided, and the other team doesn't even know the game started. And that $500 tip? That was just the first crack in her glass. A drop of suspicion sliding through her perfectly filtered Chardonnay life. But I wasn't even close to done. See, Curtis, her lawyer, he wasn't the panicky type. He's the guy who builds his whole identity on phrases like amicable resolution and fair but firm. Loves the idea of a smooth, predictable divorce. The kind he can brag about later. Trust me, he probably told her. I've seen it all. He thought ours would be a 2-line case note. Quick, clean, forgettable. Until the envelope showed up. Delivered by courier. Heavy cream paper. Wax seal raised like a royal crest. No logo. No return address. Just private and confidential. Curtis slid it open at 3:17 p.m. on a Thursday. For sentences inside. No fluff. No drama. Just business. This notice serves to confirm activation and distribution of the Carraway Family Trust to Mr. Carraway, as per Clause 7C. All assets are personal, inherited, and have been held under the Carraway name since February 2019. Your client is not named, nor entitled to any portion. Questions may be directed to our legal office. Curtis read it once, twice, 3 times. Then again, like the words might rearrange themselves if he stared hard enough. They didn't. And that's when he picked up the phone. She was at brunch again, iced coffee in hand, spinning the tale of how generous she'd been in the settlement. Probably tossing out lines like, honestly, it's kind of sad how easy he made it for me. Then her phone buzzed. Twice. Curtis. She sighed, answered, all irritation. Curtis, I'm with friends. Can this wait? His voice wasn't steady anymore. You need to read the letter they just sent me. What letter? A trust notice, he said. The Carraway Trust. It's been activated. Okay, so. Not okay, so, Curtis snapped. $12 million for $100,000 in initial assets. None of it shared. None of it yours. The words didn't compute. She just stared at her mimosa like it held subtitles. I what? I thought he was just a teacher. Curtis exhaled like a man trying to keep his blood pressure down. You told me there were no hidden assets. That you two lived paycheck to paycheck. We did, she snapped. I think we did. What is this, some retirement fund? No, Curtis said flat. This is generational. Old money. And it's firewalled tighter than Fort Knox. I have 0 standing here. 0. The table around her fell silent. Her friends froze, eyes flicking between her pale face and her untouched drink. I didn't know, she whispered. That's clear, Curtis said coldly. But you should have. You really, really should have. She hung up, walked to the bathroom, locked the door. Inside, she opened the forwarded email, read the skin once, then twice, like the letters might magically shift. They didn't. That single line burned into her brain. Your client is not named nor entitled to any portion. And that's when the reel started spinning in her head. Had she ever asked about my family? About the name on the mailbox? About that old photo in the guest room? The one she said clashed with her aesthetic? No, she never asked. Because she assumed there was nothing to ask. She assumed she was marrying down. She assumed up was the only direction life could go. And now? Now she's standing in a tiled restroom, holding her phone like it weighs 1,000 pounds, realizing she didn't just lose a husband. She walked barefoot over a gold vein in the dirt and never looked down. And all I did was let her. The pounding came fast. Open palm. 5 sharp slaps against the flimsy rental door like she was trying to summon a ghost. I opened it slow, holding a mug of tea, wearing an old flannel I hadn't unpacked in years. Behind her, the world kept moving. Cars rolling by, sprinklers ticking, a wind chime clinking on a neighbor's porch. But she stood there like time just slammed on the brakes. You lied to me, she hissed. I stepped aside. Come in. She didn't even ditch the heels, just clacked across the bare floor like a prosecutor ready to tear someone apart. Tight beige skirt, designer bag swinging like a gavel, fury all over her face. Her mascara smudged just enough to betray the brunch meltdown. Is it true? She demanded, hands trembling. The trust, the money, the name, Carraway. Is it true? I sank into the only decent chair in the place, next to a cardboard box serving as my side table. nodded toward the kettle. Made chamomile, I said casually. Still warm. Cut the crap, she snapped. I set my mug down gently. Yes, I said, voice calm as a winter lake. It's true. My grandfather's trust activated upon divorce. Conditional inheritance. She just stared at me. Her voice cracked. Conditional? What does that even mean? I leaned forward, calm as stone. It means if we'd stayed together, you'd still know nothing, I said. That's how it works. The trust only unlocks if I'm no longer legally tied to anyone outside the Caraway line. I let that sink in. You weren't a match. Her mouth opened, then shut like a door on a windy day. Her eyes darted around my living room like she was searching for reality. The place looked exactly how she imagined. A sad little box to match a sad little paycheck. Bare walls. A couch with folded laundry. No warmth. No style. You let me leave, she whispered, voice cracking wide. You wanted me gone. No, I said evenly. I just didn't stop you. I didn't know, she stammered, sinking onto the edge of my futon like her legs had given up. You never told me about your family, the money, the name. How could I have known? You said I was just a schoolteacher, I said with a shrug. And you were right. I never said otherwise. She looked up then, and I saw it. That slow crawl of realization across her face like a rash. That she'd mistaken quiet for weakness, simplicity for smallness, love for lack of ambition. I made a mistake, she whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't mean all that stuff. You know, she pushed on, voice trembling now, sliding into the same pleading tone she used back when she wanted something. About your salary, about God, I was just angry, pressured. I stood up, walked to a small cabinet, pulled out a manila envelope, the same one I brought to dinner, the one she ignored like it didn't matter. I handed it to her. Her hand shook like a branch in a storm. Everything's still valid, I said. Signed. Finalized. We're officially done. She stared at the envelope like it was a live grenade. Please, she whispered. Let's just talk. Really talk. I offered that, I said, walking back to my chair. Years ago. I was stupid. I agreed. She laughed. Broken dry. You're serious. I'm at peace, I said simply. The tears came then. Not the staged kind she'd roll out at parties, but real ones. The kind that show up when the floor vanishes under your feet. I never knew who you really were, she choked out. No, I said quietly. But I did. She left without another word. No door slam. Just silence. And in that silence, I sat there, sipping the last of my tea, staring at that envelope on the coffee table. She thought it was the end of a conversation. For me, it was punctuation. The last period on a sentence I'd been writing in my head for years. The photo ran a month later on page 3 of the Midland Business Journal under a headline her friends probably skimmed past, until they didn't. Legacy and leadership. Caraway Family Trust reemerges with major philanthropic pledge. There I was, clear as daylight. Navy suit. Crisp white shirt. Hand shaking the mayor in front of a gala backdrop dripping gold lettering. To my left, the CEO of the largest hospital group in the region. To my right, the head of the Historical Preservation Board. And beneath the photo, bold serif letters. Full name redacted. Sole inheritor of the Caraway family estate. She didn't stumble on it herself. A friend from spin class sent the screenshot with a laughing emoji. Is this your ex? Damn, you never mentioned he had money? Another pinged seconds later. Different friend. Weren't you just saying he still owed you for the Vitamix? A third text. Her cousin. Girl, you're broke. Ex just pledged $1 million to restore the old library. Her stomach must have dropped through the floor. She opened the article. It wasn't long. Just a tidy piece explaining how Mr. Caraway has maintained a low profile, quietly assuming control of the family trust after patriarch Samuel Caraway passed. It praised my commitment to community, my decision to fund education and preservation projects, and my disinterest in flaunting wealth. They even included a quote I'd given the reporter. Legacy isn't about inheritance, I said. It's about discernment. Quiet decisions with loud results. Her phone slipped from her hand, hit the marble floor with a crack and skittered under the kitchen island like it wanted no part of this conversation. She froze on that stool, staring at the space where her phone disappeared. The room around her suddenly too big, too cold. And then the call came. First, her mother. No hello, no warm-up. You mean you left that? She closed her eyes. Mom, I didn't know. You lived with him for years. Didn't you ever wonder why he never borrowed a dime? Why his car was 10 years old, but ran like it came off the lot yesterday? Mom, stop. You always said he was broke. And you believed me? Well, her mom snapped, voice sharp as glass. You thought wrong. Now you're in a rental with a dead houseplant while your ex-husband's out here donating wings to children's hospitals. Nice work. Click. More messages rolled in. Dozens. A college friend sent a voice note that started with, "Okay, what the actual hell?" She yanked the Wi-Fi plug from the wall like that would slow the avalanche. Sat alone in her too bright kitchen, drowning in a sweatshirt she'd stolen from my closet during the split. The sleeves hung past her hands like ropes. She kept tugging them up, choking on regret. Outside, some kid zipped by on a scooter. The scraping sound on pavement was the only thing in the air, because what was left for her to say? It wasn't just that I had money now. It was that everyone knew. And worse, everyone knew she didn't. It's one thing to leave a man because you think he's beneath you. It's another to find out the man you mocked for being just a teacher is now shaking hands with the people who signed checks with more zeros than your annual wardrobe budget. She thought she rewrote our story, but now she was learning the truth. She was just a footnote in mine. It took her 3 days to call Curtis back. By then, the article wasn't just floating in the business section. It had gone viral. Screenshots popping up on Facebook groups. Twitter ran it under a caption that read, "Guy gets dumped, becomes Bruce Wayne. Respect." Even LinkedIn caught the scent. A trending post. Never underestimate the quiet ones. She showed up at Curtis's office without an appointment. Big sunglasses, hair scraped back in a bun tight enough to hurt. Dressed like a grieving widow. Funny thing? The only thing she'd lost was something she never bothered to check if she had. Curtis looked up from his desk like a man bracing for a migraine. "I want to revisit the settlement," she said, dropping into the leather chair like posture alone could conjure miracles. Curtis exhaled hard. "I figured this was coming." He lied. "Curtis," she snapped, leaning in. "He hid money. You told me if someone conceals assets during a divorce." "He didn't." Curtis cut her off, voice flat as stone. "That's the problem." She blinked. "What do you mean?" "I filed a petition yesterday," Curtis said, tapping his tablet. "Asset concealment. Emergency hearing request." Their attorneys replied in 42 hours, with documentation so airtight, I felt like I should send them a fruit basket. He spun the screen toward her. "Read it." The response was brutal in its precision. The Caraway Family Trust was never commingled with marital assets, was registered under a pre-marriage legal name, and remained dormant for the entire marriage. Activation occurred post-separation, under conditions clearly stated in Clause 7C. There is no legal basis for redistribution. She stared, trying to process the words. Dormant? Pre-marriage name? What is this, some spike graph? Curtis didn't even blink. "You never asked him about the name change?" "I thought he was being sentimental," she muttered. "Legally," Curtis said, tapping the screen, "he insulated everything. That inheritance didn't exist in any claimable form while you were together. It's like trying to sue someone for a lottery ticket they bought after the breakup." Her voice rose, sharp and cracking. "I was his wife. I gave him years of my life. And he gave you the house, the car, the accounts, and didn't contest a single clause," Curtis said calmly. "No prenup. No screaming. Just cooperation. That was your red flag. He let you walk." Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. "There's got to be a way," she whispered finally. "Appeal. Loophole. Something." Curtis folded his hands. "There isn't." She leaned back slowly, like gravity had doubled. "You're telling me I walked away from $12 million? 12? 8. Curtis corrected without mercy. Her eyes slid to the wall, the Harvard law diploma, the shelf stacked with journals she never read. "You should have dug deeper," she muttered. Curtis's stare was glacial. "No," he said. "You should have." For once, she had no comeback. No sarcasm. No power play. Just silence. Because there's no attorney for arrogance. No appeal process for underestimating a man who knew you better than you knew yourself. The paperwork was final. The money gone. So was I? The envelope came plain white. No return address. No wax seal. No perfume spritz like the ones that used to make me sneeze. Just my name in her looping cursive. Same as the Christmas cards back when we still cared. Inside, one sheet of paper, folded neat. I opened it in my workshop, standing among sawdust and the smell of oil, screwdriver still in hand. No dear. No greeting. Just one sentence in deep blue ink. I thought you were small. Turns out I was. No apology. No explanation. Just that. And that, ironically, was the truest thing she'd ever written. I read it twice. Didn't hurt. Didn't sting. Didn't stir up anything except a quiet sense of confirmation. The ghosts of anger and heartbreak were long gone. I walked to the old filing cabinet in the corner. Not the one for taxes, the other one. The drawer labeled in thick Sharpie, settled accounts. Inside, faded pay stubs from the school district, our marriage license, a sun-bleached photo from Lake Moro of two people who once believed in forever. I slipped her letter on top, closed the drawer with a solid metallic clack. No frame, no ceremony, just filed, finalized. Because the truth, that letter wasn't for me. It was for her. A woman who finally realized what she'd thrown away wasn't a man with a modest paycheck, but a man who never needed money to have power. Someone who didn't need to shout to be heard. Someone who built empires in silence while she broadcasted every brunch. She'd spent years confusing flash for substance. Thought class was something you could swipe a card for. Believed power lived in square footage and Instagram likes. And now she knew better. But knowing didn't change a damn thing. The house wasn't hers anymore. The friends who once egged her on now forwarded her headlines about me. The lawyer she trusted was done picking up her calls. And the man she left standing in a kitchen holding a grocery bag full of wilted lettuce? He wasn't looking back. She mailed me that sentence hoping it cracked a door open. All it did was slam the last window shut. And I didn't reply, because you don't argue with ghosts. You just let them fade. The ballroom shimmered with a kind of quiet wealth that doesn't need to shout. Crystal chandeliers throwing fractured light across white linen tables, silver forks aligned like ranks of soldiers. Men in tailored tuxes, women in gowns that whispered instead of screamed. I stood at the podium, my grandfather's pocket watch tucked into my breast pocket. A speech in my head I'd rewritten 100 times, but memorized in just one night. And as I looked out over the faces, the mayor, CEOs, board presidents, I thought of one thing. Sometimes the loudest revenge is silence. Then I raised my glass. I didn't need a long speech. Just enough. Some people chase legacy, I said, letting the silence hang like a curtain. Others inherit it. But the wisest ones, they protect it. A ripple of quiet nods moved through the ballroom. Polished shoes shifted. Diamond earrings caught the light. I don't believe in revenge, I added. It's loud, messy, wasteful. But discernment? That's where real power lies. I raised my glass slowly. To discernment. The room responded with a soft chorus of crystal clinks. Not applause. Not a standing ovation. Something better. Respect. Across town, in a dim kitchen littered with half-packed boxes and a drying rack full of chipped wine glasses, she watched it play out on a flat-screen TV propped against the wall. The camera swept across the gala. Me shaking hands with a state senator, laughing with the foundation board, smiling, not smug, not vengeful, just unbothered, at peace. She took a shaky sip of Pinot Noir, the cheap stuff she once mocked me for bringing home. Now it was the only kind she could afford. She didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't throw the glass against the wall like a soap opera cliché. She just sat there and stared, her reflection faint in the screen as my face filled it. Because it wasn't the money that gutted her. It wasn't the cars, or the influence, or the gala under chandeliers. It was this. The story kept going without her, kept getting better without her. She wasn't part of my life anymore. She was part of the lesson. And the truth? That lesson is simple. Real power doesn't shout. It doesn't posture. It waits. Quiet. Patient. Precise. Sometimes the sharpest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's peace. Walking away without ever needing to explain yourself. That's the final move.